Welcome, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give everybody just another minute to find their way into the room. Just a few notes to keep you mindful of how we're hosting the webinar today. We do have CART provided for you. You can enable that on your Zoom account or on your Zoom link. You can push closed caption at the bottom and that will populate on your screen and turn on for you. We have an ASL interpreter who will be facilitating some of the questions. Today, we have Donna Valverde, who is joining us from the Statewide Outreach Center at the Texas School for the Deaf, who is our funding partner at Texas Hands and Voices. And she is not only coming to us in her role as the Statewide Outreach Center, as someone who works at the Statewide Outreach Center, but as a mom of someone who's raising deaf, hard of hearing kids. So we are lucky to have Donna share her knowledge and her wisdom with us today. So I'm going to turn this over to Donna, let her introduce herself and give you an idea of how she'd like today to go. Thanks, Donna.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know it's nice to take time out of your day, but it can be hard. Your kids are important. Their IEP being successful is important. I work at the Statewide Outreach Center. I am really a data evaluation and quality assurance person, but in my heart, I am an advocate. I have been doing that for so long. I really enjoy this kind of work. I have two kids. I have one in high school and one in middle school. Both are medically, technically hard of hearing, but they're deaf. And they've gone to a variety of educational placements. The only thing we have never done is a regional day school, but we have tried everything else. They both use accommodations. They wear hearing aids, headphones, sound systems, everything. And so I can relate to the frustrations with IEPs when they're not working. They don't really match what your child needs or the progress isn't there. I would like to have set some ground rules. I am recording from a studio, so I have green screen and I have my PowerPoint up. So you might see me looking in some different directions. I would like everyone to keep their camera off unless they have a question, and then put it on so I can see you. And I want to get going so we can get you this good information. You may notice that I will present a little reach over. Obviously, I have to change the slides. Don't think I'm walking away, losing eye contact with you. I'm just clicking to keep the slides going. And I think we're ready to go. Is everyone ready? I can't see thumbs up or waves, I guess, on your screen. I don't know. I think we're ready. Hang on just a second. I need to click something, I think. I have to give permission for something. Okay, wonderful. So the slides, making your IEP work for your child. I want to make sure that as we go through this, I'm assuming you already have an IEP or 504 plan in place because school is starting. So this is more of working with your current IEP plan or current 504 plan and making sure that it's working for your child. It is not about writing a new one or getting an IEP in place. I just want y'all to kind of have an idea of what the content would be. If you've never done an IEP, you've never had an ARD meeting, this is the first time the child is getting labeled, this will still be beneficial to you. But if you need to talk to Texas Hands and Voices or myself about starting and implementing, please just let us know. I will move in just a second to let you read this, but I want to make sure, obviously, I am not a lawyer. I'm not a special ed lawyer. I love being an advocate, but I am not the most knowledgeable about everything. I know a lot, but I do not know all the different school districts in Texas, all of their policies. This is for informational purposes only. If you feel like, I don't think this matches what our school district does, feel free to contact them or an attorney to help you with those issues. Okay, everybody good? I wanted to make sure that was there for you all to read. Now, this is a really important question. Being a parent is tough. We're busy. We have a lot to think of, a lot to plan for. Sometimes with the IEP is kind of year by year, grade by grade, period by period. Really, the best place to start is at the end and having the end in mind. What does that look like? What do you want your child to look like at 18, 25, 30? Think about them as a person after they're out of your care. Ooh, that thought breaks my heart to think about, but one day our kids will leave the nest or maybe they won't, but they will become an adult and there will be some increased independence. So I have this picture, sorry, on my slides, it's backwards. Um, my vision for my kids, I enjoy traveling and I really try to force my kids to try new things, things they're scared of. So this is kind of my vision. I want my kids to be able to have language competency, to have the cognitive abilities to think critically, to have emotional awareness, to have academic skills. I want them to be able to stand on the cliff with excitement. This could be fun, but at the same time think, am I scared? Am I going to break a bone? Am I going to hurt myself? I want them to be able to have that thought process of I'm willing to not take the risk or I'm fearless, but I want them to be able to walk the cliff and have the ability to think critically, process, and make those decisions to weigh the benefits and the risks. If I have that end goal in mind, then looking at the annual IEP, looking at the goals, I know where we're trying to get. I want you to start thinking, what do I want for my kids? Or what does my kid want for themselves? And how do we increase those independent skills? And then start thinking backwards. What do they need now to get them to that place? And that's how we address the IEP goals and approach those. If you can envision that, hold that, and then that will help you drive your IEP planning, organizing, and getting things where you want them to be. I'm going to look at the chat real quick just to make sure nobody's putting questions up, so we'll keep going. And I will be moving, but sometimes I don't want you to read before we go ahead. Some of you are probably familiar already with the three pieces of legislation. We have the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. Oh, I don't know if the interpreter can see me or not. Section 504, and then IDEA. If you are not familiar with those three pieces of legislation, I would encourage you to research them more in depth. Sorry, still trying to figure out my placement. These are kind of simplified definitions, but ADA covers all ages and anyone with a disability. There is a list of disabilities that are covered. ADA has a large list of eligibility criteria, and there are 5 sections. 3 are typically definitely hard of hearing individuals benefit most. It's education, employment, and accommodations. In general, civil rights is not special ed law, but it does apply here because of the education section. But that's something that you need to be aware of. And I'll explain more, if you're talking about the ADA, or really it should be more a 504. 504 is under the Department of Education, and this is to make sure that children with disabilities get an education. In the past, they were not required to be educated. That's heartbreaking. But this talks about the free, appropriate public education, and that each child is required to get that. The third is IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act. This is also connected to special ed. It has parts B and C. B is age 3 to 21, and C is birth to 3. The point is that this provides guidelines, minimum expectations for programs, schools, and other types of education centers, and what we should be providing to the children. This is really important when it comes to the least restrictive environment, and I will talk more about that in a minute. But these three pieces of legislation become, I'll give you a minute to read these real quick. So in a nutshell, really simplifying this down to the basics, any child with a disability, we're specifically talking about deaf and hard of hearing, but they should be receiving a free, appropriate education. If you choose private school or homeschools, those laws do not apply. But if you are in the public school system, it should be free, no charge to you. It should be appropriate. I'll talk about, I emphasize appropriate for a reason, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Oops, sorry. The least restrictive environment, and that is a big point. And then how do we get that? So these are the four key pieces. The first one, they should have equal access to the school environment and the after school environment, because after school is still part of school. But this is really talking about school. They should have equal access to their peers. A lot of people forget about that. The law does not specifically say peers or students, but practice says that. They should be able to do partner work. They should be allowed to do group work. They, should have those social opportunities, the opportunity to experience incidental learning. So that is one block. Accommodations or modifications. And if you do not know the difference, I can explain that. Accommodations are like, suppose the curriculum, whatever the curriculum is, it's not changed in any way. It's just how they access it. Maybe they need captioners, they need a note taker, they need an interpreter, they need cart services. Maybe they need a tactile person who can help them, an LSP, SLP. But the curriculum, the grade expectations, the TEKS are not changed in any way. We are just allowing them to access that information. There, with modifications, the student may receive those accommodations, but the curriculum may need to be modified slightly. Maybe a student who has a visual impairment, can they read a PowerPoint? No. They may modify that into Braille, something that they can read. They may, but that will not be changing the word choice, things like that. But they may use more pictures, use more words, depending on the intellectual level of the child. So, and then the last slide, their individualized plan for this I'm going to use individualized plan. It could be IEP, it could be 504. Both of those must be individualized and they must match your child's needs. The school districts cannot be using copy paste systems. It's not like, oh, here's the deaf 504 plan. We'll just take this kid's 504 plan and use it for this other deaf kid we have. That is not okay. They need to be individualizing it to your child, and the accommodations might be different for every child. Access to peers might look different. Access to the education may look different. It should be individualized. But those four pieces, if they are perfect, then you're getting the quote perfect education in that free and appropriate education in the least restrictive environment. The goal is for the student not to struggle. Just checking if there's any questions. Awesome. So the end result, it's a long sentence, but I'll let you read it. That's the dream. Every second from the time they arrive, 7:30, 7:45, 9 o'clock, whatever time they get to come to school, should be smooth. They should have equal access, no restrictions to the environment, to the people around, to the students, to staff, to the administration, specialist. And the education is there, whatever is being taught. They should not feel stuck with no access. If we have to, and it shouldn't be quote unquote dumbing down the curriculum. It should be appropriate. And that's what I want to talk about, that word appropriate. Appropriate is based on the kid. Ideally, all kids, deaf, hard of hearing, should be held to the same standards. If they're in third grade, they should be learning third grade content. If they can't access that, we may need to provide the accommodations to be able to allow them access to that third grade. And I want to be careful here. I'm not saying mastery is required. Yes, we do want them to master it, but are they continually accessing third grade curriculum? If you're giving a third grader a kindergarten curriculum, how are they building their skills up to the third grade level? Is that an appropriate curriculum? Maybe a deaf or hard of hearing student wants to learn Spanish. Well, the Spanish class at school that's offered, maybe they're using some software that they're just using headphones, speaking and listening. Would that be an appropriate curriculum for them? No. There would have to be a different type of Spanish language curriculum chosen that would match their need. You want to make sure that the curriculum is appropriate for the child, but still follows that appropriateness and allows them to meet their educational goals. With this in mind, how do we make sure that the current IEP is working? How can you make sure the school is following it, providing it? And how you as a parent, like, what do you do if you want to make changes or things need to change? You want this to be your ultimate goal. Oop, I'm sorry. I don't know what just happened. Okay. Step one, review the current IEP plan. What I want you to review, it always takes a minute to focus. Look at all of the objectives. Maybe during the summers, I mean, some students like just excel during the summer. They pick up something, they have some kind of breakthrough. Like looking at my daughter, I'm hard of hearing, my husband's hard of hearing. We both have master's degrees. You would think, oh, if you have a master's degree, you're highly educated, you're bilingual, your children must be great. You know, they're proficient in language. And that's not true. We often forget that every child has a processing time. They all acquire language differently. My daughter really struggles with expressive language. Her receptive language is great. When she hears things, she completely understands them. But for the life of her, that child could not tell us like how she felt. How was school? And we had a really tough 2 years, almost 2.5 years, where she was angry. She was throwing things. She would break down, cry, shut down to the point where I didn't know what to do with her. When she was about 3, everybody's just like, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry. And I'm like, no, I'm doing everything. I read with her every night. I'm doing all the parent things I'm supposed to do. Then one summer, I don't know what happened, a strange story. I have an app in the car that I use to show the lyrics of the songs because she likes to listen to music. I heard her singing back there and I was like, okay, don't look, don't look. I don't know what she's doing, but she's singing. After that, like just being able to express herself with the music, it was like all of a sudden she could express herself well. Coming back in the fall, I was like, whoa, we need to change some of these IEP goals. I don't know what happened during the summer. She had that beautiful brain click. I don't know, but some of these goals are no longer appropriate. She's mastered these now. So that can be the same with your child. Maybe you got a tutor during the summer. Maybe they went to some kind of camp that just helped them excel. Maybe, you're reading books more or reading different books. But maybe you're looking at an objective thinking, is this something we still need? Maybe not. Check in. And if nothing needs to change, that's fine. But I don't want you to be able to memorize, but just easily kind of recall their objectives throughout the year so that you're looking for proof of that they are really working on and meeting those goals. Once they achieve it, you can change it. You don't have to wait till the next art meeting. You can review and just so you're just prepared for the year. Look at their current accommodations and modifications. Are these things they still need? Is there something different they need now? Maybe there have been changes in the summer that would encourage us to change some of those. And then data. Maybe you're thinking, me as a parent collecting data? We do. We do it in an informal way. Like you'll think to yourself, oh, this whole summer, this child has not brushed her hair. Now she's finally cooperating and brushing her hair. That's data. It's an observation. Anything that you have relating to their academics, their IEP goals, you may be going, oh, my child is starting to do this. Or maybe you're noticing, hey, I still do not see them doing this at home at all. Or, I think we need to add this or change it in a way. It becomes critical that you have those observations. Like my daughter, for another example, during COVID, she was in third grade during COVID, and we were sitting in my office. I chose homeschool during COVID, and she's hard of hearing, but like I was told that she's profoundly deaf. It is impossible for her to hear people's speech. All of a sudden she said, Mom, I think your food's ready in the microwave. I was like, you cannot hear that. Your audiogram says you cannot hear it. She's like, I swear I can hear it. She's like, you go check on your food. And she was right. She heard the beep. She's like, I always hear the beeps. I'm like, why didn't you tell me? Like maybe we need different hearing aids or adding speech goals. And she was like, I didn't know, but she's telling me I can hear these things. So we followed up with a test. Don't ask me how, but her hearing, she gained some hearing. So going back to when she had like a hard time expressing herself and now she can, it seems like it was more something with language processing. Like she needed to go, like her brain, hello, yes, that's some sound we're processing. We need to process it. We need to think about it. And then work with those, like this sign means this. When she went back to school, we added some speech goals, some hearing aid stuff. So if you're not sure about the academics, ask the school. Say, hey, I'm noticing these things. Can we talk about this? Is this something we could put in the IEP? But you want it to be related to academic achievement. That's really important. And then the school's readiness, the schools. And what I mean by this, we have an IEP, we have modifications or accommodations, we have our observations, and then is the school actually ready for your child? Do not wait until the first day of school, the first week of school. Oh, then they're going to be like, oh, I'm sorry, we couldn't find an interpreter. This is really expensive. Or, we don't have a deaf ed teacher. We have to wait a month with a sub. No, no. They cannot avoid those problems, but we need to catch them before the first day of school. The child can end up losing a week or two of education, and that's not an appropriate education. Not having any access, nothing educationally going on, them not getting the opportunity to learn is not an appropriate education. And that creates a restrictive environment. Today's Thursday. Email them tomorrow. Hey, is everything set? I'd like the names of the teacher, the interpreter, whoever. Push them. Who are these people? What time? How long? When are they there? You can see if the school is actually ready for them or not. And the point is, if they're not ready, then what is their plan? Should I keep them home? Should we transfer to a different district? Do you need to contract with someone? I mean, we should not be starting the first day of school to get all these things in place. It's really critical that we are reviewing these before. So that's step one. Any questions? To help with step one, here is some information to just kind of keep in the back of your mind. I'll let you go ahead and read it first, and then I'll go over it. That first one is an interesting one. I do want to back up real quick. So I'm trying to figure out how to do my Vanna White appropriately. And when you get the PowerPoint, you can click on things that have links. It'll give you the legislation, that kind of things. The first one is my interpretation of advocacy. The laws and everything state the educational system has the obligation to provide these things that allow a student to access the information. And what does it mean? My interpretation of it is you can't say no. You have the responsibility to provide these things to my child, and you cannot say no. Some schools, some programs may not have the resources. That is true. Texas is huge. There are rural areas. And we know they are short of CART providers, deaf ed professionals, co-navigators. We are short of those people. That does not mean that the schools can sit back and go, sorry, we can't do it though. It also means even if the school decides like a specific approach is best, like I'll give TSD as an example. TSD is an ASL English bilingual program. And that was the school's decision that that was the best choice for their students. Does that mean I can't ask for speech services? No. Does that mean I can't ask for like hearing aids with the loop in the classroom so they can hear better? No, they have an IEP that is individualized for that student. Maybe your school district chooses C. Maybe they choose a different signing system. And that's the way they think they can provide the education best, but it cannot be the only way. And that second sentence means if they don't have something your child needs, they have to find a way to provide it. A lot of them say, oh, we can't do it during the school year, but we can make up for it during the summer. And that's kind of how they flex the boundaries of that law. You can say, no, it has to happen during the school year. Or you can say, yes, I'm fine with them doing this during the summer. They need to think about contracting, having someone remote in to work with them because you don't have a local person for that service. They may partner with another school district. Sometimes schools don't know what they don't know. So you helping finding what's out there, or saying to them, hey, if you can't do this, I know about this can help. I saw someone pop their camera on for a minute. Did you have a question? You turned it back off. So I just wanted to make sure. The same bill that does this last one, talking about the child and family deciding what the language of instruction is, different than communication, but how the school teaches. You please know that when you go into the ARD and they say, no, no, you can't, we teach I'm making this up, a line sign language. I'm sorry, they cannot tell you. That is the parent and family's choice, how they access their peers, their curriculum. That is up to you all. You have to make it clear what you want or helping the child know what they want. You tell them, you can choose the curriculum for this, but the language that is best for my child is this. So I just want you to keep that in mind. I already talked a little bit about data collection, but I really want to emphasize in the many years as an advocate, I will have parents come, they are frustrated. They're like, this doesn't make sense. They're teaching my kids such basic stuff. I want them to really be more advanced. And I'm like, what do you mean more advanced? Like, okay, I want them to sign phenomenally. And I'm like, what do you mean? And what words are they signing now? Or what signs are they not using? Have you seen them do like math? Have you seen them add things at home? They Parents will often, I don't know, I've seen this, I don't know, but saying, I know my kids advanced, I know they need more than what you're giving them. They want the data. They are driven by data. Therefore, parents need to assume responsibility for that data as well. Document what you're seeing at home, and sometimes kids, they're smarter with their friends. It's fine when you see how they're interacting with their friends, document it. It's really important that you review their goals. And as you review them, think about what you've seen. I suggest you start just keeping a little, documentation. And another reason, if the school tries to say no, 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 they're not ready for that. Hello, you have all this documentation that you can say, yes, they are. And then the last one. And what I mean by this one, for example, I used to be an English teacher. So let's say like there's a goal that says write a 3-paragraph essay with 3 main points 3 times. That's it. Okay. I'm going to use my high school kid as an example. He's 15, 10th grade, and I'm thinking about in one whole year to write 3 essays, one whole year to master that for 3 essays. You have to think about he's already been writing essays. And starting in the TEKS, they have writing TEKS starting from about 3rd grade. Why 3 essays? I want 6. Why 6? Well, I want one in there's 6 grading periods. I want one in each grading period. I kind of force the teacher to do a little more essay writing assignments. But if you decide to leave it as 3, okay, that's fine. The first quarter, maybe they did 2 and they got 80s on those. The second quarter, they did 2 more. So now they've done 4. The IEP says 3. What what do you do? Go back and say, "Okay, we finished. We've met this goal. Let's write a new goal." My point is IEP goals are not locked for the school year. If you see your child meeting them, if you see them making progress, it may be time for a change. Or what if you see them struggling? They haven't been able to meet one. Those 3 trials are still there and we're halfway through the school year. If something's wrong that they haven't even been able to try it once, we need to modify that goal in some way. Sometimes we have goals that are short term just to get them to a place for the long term goal, but they may not need to stay on their IEP for the whole year. So we want to make sure that your child is continuing to progress and that we're continuing to have goals that match their needs. And then this more support. Some of you may do like the co-schooling concept. You have extra assignments. You have a private tutor. That kid has a lot more access to resources and help. They might be meeting their IEP goals a lot quicker. Why would you just leave the same goals? If we're like, we're going to finish this one soon, let's implement a new one. And so keep that in the back of your mind as you go through the school year. Checking in really quick. I need water also. Step 2. And we've talked about this, but I'll go a little more in depth. Data collection. Remember, I said parents should assume some responsibility for data collection, and this is some tips. The school districts have an assessment calendar. They don't often post it in public places. Some are really good about doing it, but some are not. Get it, get a copy of it. Then you can find out, make sure you're getting the results of those assessments and possibly use that to go back and modify your child's goals. Don't wait till the end of the year or wait till they tell you in the spring ARD, oh, your fall score was this and it's above or below. And you're like, wait, what? You took that test like 5 months ago. Now you're telling me? Always make a point of knowing these. Get the assessment calendar. Make sure you're ready. Make sure it's scheduled meetings, or ask them, hey, where are my child's results? I know how long after they take those tests they should be getting their results. So, and use that to help you. I talked a little bit about this already. I want you to think about this year. How will you collect your data this year? Do you want to go observe in the classroom sometimes? Maybe you want to schedule in like check-in times at home, something where you just kind of sit down with your child. Maybe you get a tutor. Um, Maybe you have some kind of assessments you're using at home. There are so many things online that are free. You can assess your child with some of these tools, but think about how you want to keep that data. I use notes on my phone. I have so many on my phone. I saw this. The teacher said this. But it's important that you document what the teacher says too, what the principal said and did. Put the date, put the time. If you have the emails, save them, keep everything. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. It went off. I can't see my PowerPoint. Observation time. Parent Observations are critical. I am telling you, you have no idea. I've seen parents who don't do it at all or stop. Please make time to observe. Some schools have stricter policies than others, but technically they should not be telling you no. It's public school. But they may have ways that they want you to work with them. How am I able to sign up and come in? And you don't have to go and sit for a whole hour, but I will tell you, you being there changes the dynamics of the classroom, you know. And I don't want to say like, oh, you're forcing the teacher to behave. No, but the students will act different when a mom or their dad is in the room. And go there, just go for 30 minutes, whatever they offer. Take the opportunity to go and observe. And while you're observing, document. The teacher said this, the students did this. For example, last year I observed one of my daughter's classes. She was complaining about the behavior management in the classroom. And I know that teacher. I was kind of like, huh, that seems really strange. I asked the school, can I observe? They said, you can 10 minutes. And I asked for the middle 10 minutes. They were kind of puzzled. I said, the first 10 minutes, students are arriving, they're trying to get settled, I won't see anything. The last 10 minutes often is winding down, independent work, getting ready to leave. So I said, I'd like the middle 10 minutes. That's the instruction time. And so they allowed me. And oh my gosh, in 10 minutes, I saw a lot. I documented all kinds of things. And the result, the teacher ended up getting some support that she needed because she had been asking and was not getting it. Observations can be so powerful. If you can do it, do it. And then scheduling progress review. And it might be depending, ooh, I see a question. Hang on just a second. I'm going to read it. So by going in and observing for data, is that just going in to see how our child is doing in the classroom, making sure they're receiving services? And really that can be a variety of things depending on your goal. If your child is telling you the interpreter is not interpreting during class, I'm just making up something, you want to go and look for that. And it might help if you tell the admin that, my student is complaining that this is going on. I would like to go and observe. It's not for the teacher. But maybe the teacher's telling you your child isn't participating in class. They just sit there quietly. So maybe, you're coming in and observing how many times the teacher is actually prompting them, or what does it look like in the classroom? Maybe the classroom setup, the way they can't see the cart, they can't see the interpreter. So something's going on with the access. So I would say you can observe anything. Like the story that I shared, I was really looking at how the behavior in the classroom was impacting my daughter's education. So, and how the teacher was managing it. And the teacher knew what I was coming for, and the principal knew what I was coming for. So I documented how, the teacher redirected, or where the different students were sitting, and how were their interruptions severe or not severe. I documented just those things and nothing else. It's a lot to document, but I always suggest that you have a goal. If you feel like they're not receiving the services they're supposed to, go in and observe for that. Does that answer your question? I just want to make sure. I'll keep going on. Okay, back to this. Depending on the grading system, some are quarterly, some are 6 weeks, but there's always some kind of, either you get a progress report every 3 weeks, or I think if it's quarters, maybe after 4 weeks you get a progress report. Yes, thank you. When you get any kind of that progress report, have a meeting, schedule a meeting, or ask for the dates when they'll be sending those out. So, that you're not struggling to see everyone's availability. But it's just really crucial. if you wait till the grading periods are done, they're moving on. Sometimes it's harder to go back as a courtesy to the teacher and to help your child. Like, if there's a progress report, review it. I believe there's a question. All parents can observe. IEP, 504, or none of those. All parents can observe for any reason you want. I don't want to say any reason, but parents have a right to go into the public school system. All parents. Last, what is TRS? Not the Texas Retirement System, but the TEACS Resource System. I feel like I'm going to run out of time. Oh, goodness. Okay, 15 minutes left. Um, I wanted to open this and run through it with you, but I don't think we're going to have time. What it is a really cool parent resource. You can go in, pick third grade, pick a content area. So third grade English. It will show you all the things they are supposed to learn through the year, the TEACS standards. This is key because all public schools in the state of Texas should be following those. They should be designing their curriculum, their classroom instruction with this as the end achievement in mind. For now, the data collection, things like that, go into this TRS system and play with it. Figure out how to use it. And I'll explain a little more about that. It is critical information. I look at it so often. I think my kids are sick of me talking about it, but this is the appropriate education for my kids. I'm not just going to let them plug along, not learning what they're supposed to be. This a little review. What kind of things can you do for data collection? There's a huge variety. I talked about classroom observations, and not just you. You can ask the administration to please go in and observe the classroom. You can ask the speech therapist to go in and observe. You can ask the deaf and hard of hearing specialist. Maybe someone who's more skilled at catching the type of information you're looking for. A lot of classroom activities are not graded, like group discussions or maybe a pre-quiz. Some are graded, some are not. The teachers are only responsible for collecting assignments that justify their IEP goals, that support the IEP goals. We don't have control over what they pick and choose to grade, but we do have the right to see all the assignments. And, keep a copy of a few things so that you have those. Formal assessments like the STAR test, DRA, MAP test. Your school may use some different standardized testings, but there's also informal assessments. Teacher-made quizzes, teacher-made tests, those can be very helpful because they may do a lot better on those than these stressful situation, computerized, standardized tests. You don't want to use just one assessment. If you use some of those free assessments online, use it. It'll be considered informal because it's not done in the professional setting by the school, but it can be data that can completely help your situation. And I emphasize at home, if you happen to be reading with your child, maybe you read with your child every night and you read an article on Facebook or a website or whatever, take that moment, you're assessing them a little. Wow, they can do these things. Oh, they struggle with this. Document it. And that's why I talked about TRS. Maybe we don't know exactly what those behaviors or skills are supposed to be for their age. So when you look at that TRS website, they're like, oh, I see these skills. Yes, my child does this. My child does this. And you can document they are meeting some of those. Math time at home. when you make them go make hamburgers or you send them to McDonald's, see if they can do change, see if they know how to pay and did they get the right change. Anything you do that has some kind of academic endeavor, observe it and document it. I'm not seeing any other questions. And then the third step, monitoring. We are forever watching our kids, right? Forever. How do we monitor well? Frequent communication with your child's teacher, the IEP team, any specialists that are involved. And it is critical that that communication is there. Prompt communication. And I'm guilty. I know I have an email I still have not replied to from a month ago that talks about my daughter's writing, but I have been so busy and I get that. But try, if something's going on, like the sooner you respond, the sooner they respond, the quicker you can implement some kind of change if it's needed so that your child's not falling farther behind. Communication is key. And like what I explained before about the data, the assignments, I know sometimes it can be a lot. Sometimes it's, depending on your school platform, it might be online, might be paper, but start looking for trends, for patterns. And if you see, positives or negatives, I don't want to say negatives, concerns, communicate about that. Hey, I saw this. What's going on? Or what are we doing to try to help with this? And with teenagers, oh, we know it's hard. This is their chronic answer. I don't know. I don't know. I ask questions and it's like the shoulder. Like, but you'll start to recognize, is that a big shoulder shrug or a little shoulder shrug? And then, just asking about school. What's going on with math? How's math? Are they motivated to go to school? Do they leave in a good mood and come home very angry? I know these things are common, but sometimes the child themselves does not realize something's going on that they couldn't understand at school, or they were treated wrong, or just something. Your child knows so much about their own school day, but for 1 week, my child came home angry, or for 2 weeks, like you've started documenting something's going on. That data is critical that you contact the school and say, I've noticed something's going on. And sometimes they'll say, oh, well, they're a 13-year-old teenager, that. But, maybe they also know something's going on. So, and again, the IEP compared to the TRS website, you look at their IEP goals. If they're progressing nicely, reviewing the assignments, seeing, and is this in the same trajectory as the TRS? TEKS are saying they should be doing this. Okay, yes, they're doing this, 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 but are they succeeding in the areas that are required? Are they following the general curriculum? Remember, it should be appropriate. It should be an appropriate curriculum with the modifications or accommodations they need. So you're watching to make sure that they're on that path for success. This is an important slide. We have all three of those. We start the school year. You'll be faced with two choices. Do we just cruise along, meaning everything's good? Your kid is good, no weird surprises. You can just keep on cruising. We don't need to make changes. We don't need everything. They're meeting their goals. They're cruising along. But always, I'm telling you, please always be ready to pivot. You don't know when you're going to need to pivot if you're not monitoring, if you're not collecting that data. You may just cruise past a critical stage or a point where maybe you should have pivoted for a good reason. When you pivot, what exactly does that mean? It I don't know that word, re-ard. In my community, we often use that term. We're gonna re-ard, meaning we're gonna meet again. We're gonna have an ARD meeting. We're gonna talk about something. A lot of schools will encourage you, let's just have a teacher meeting. And that's fine. You can have a meeting, but if you are not satisfied with the result of the meeting, it's in your best interest to ask for an ARD to be called. It's more official. There is due process. You can appeal decisions if there's something versus just a teacher meeting. It's almost informal. Okay, I have 5 minutes. I've been warned. This is common. I want to remind you. Oh, yes.
We have a
Sorry.
question, an amendment.
Yes, that can be an amendment. You can do an amendment, you can change the IEP goals, you can remove something. Anything you need to change can be done as an amendment. I have 5 minutes left. I want to allow time for questions instead of me just talking, talking, talking. I'm sorry, I'm skipping this, but this sentence is crucial. I don't know if I'm in the right place even. Yes, there we go. The most important part, you can read these. There's nothing I really need to expand on, but your child, make sure the number one eligibility is deaf or hard of hearing. It breaks some of our hearts that and hard of hearing is permanent. It's permanent for now. Who knows with medical things later? But please do not allow the school to tell you their other disability is primary. Deaf and hard of hearing is an automatic language barrier. They're going to have language barriers, and language is the access to the world. Please allow their deaf or hard of hearing label to be the primary label. And then, yes, they can have all of those others. And I don't know if I can explain it better, but please keep that as the primary. So you do not lose interpreting services. You do not lose CART services. They need this one to allow access to the curriculum and access to their education. And I'm sorry, you can contact me if you have questions always. I have a list of resources just for you to look at home. And then I know we have to wrap up, but does anybody have any burning questions, comments? I know. And it's not the school's decision, it's a law. If they are documented as being deaf and hard of hearing, they're deaf, they're hard of hearing. You can ask that to be first or make it the primary. Should that be changed? Let me back up. I don't want to talk about changing the school system, but you as the parent, the IEP, the 504 plan, it is for your child and you are part of that team. Yes, you can go back and ask them, I want DHH to be their primary. And all you have to show them is the audiogram. Any other questions? Okay, perfect. If you don't have questions, I'll touch on this real quick. And we're talking about pivoting here, when you need to pivot. Often that includes changing the IEP goals, changing accommodations. This kind of explains how to write a good goal. And consider functional goals. What is a functional goal? This is kind of a little known thing in the IEP world, especially students. Often people think this only applies to students with additional disabilities, but that's not always true. We all are there with reading, writing, math, social studies goals, but sometimes they need critical thinking skills, time management, learning how to ask for help. What's a fireman? How do we call 911? These are functional. For my kids, both of them are on grade level, so a lot of their goals are functional. My son, oh my gosh, he cannot organize himself to save his life. If he had his own bank account, I think he would die. So his functional goals are this: monitor himself, monitor his balance, monitor his organization. The link to these resources, nope, wrong side. There are two that are functioning goal related. It's about critical thinking, analysis, planning, organize, kind of daily living skills. Everyone honestly will benefit from these. And some schools have amazing programs to support this. Anytime you feel like, okay, their academics are fine, we do not want to drop goals or that. You can switch to functioning goals. Okay, it is 1 o'clock. Is there anything else? I'll try to move over to the white part of the slide. Any
Thank you so
other?
much. I'll wait for get Shannon on screen. There we go.
Oh, the PowerPoint. Michaela will be emailing the PowerPoint out to all of you.
Yes.
And I hope you see Teresa's comment. Everyone, thank you all for joining us today. And please take the survey.
Yes, we appreciate that.
I hope this was helpful for everyone.
This was incredibly helpful. Thank you so much, Donna, for sharing your wisdom as an educator, as a mom, as an employee. We just thank you for everything. This was incredibly powerful information, and I think this is going to make for an excellent start to the school year. If there are families on here that you know weren't able to be with us today, if you have a friend or a neighbor or someone in your child's class who you think could benefit from this information, this webinar is recorded. Please share the link with them, get this information to them so that everybody can benefit from this excellent information that Donna shared with us today. I want to thank Donna for her time and her efforts and our funding partners at the Statewide Outreach Center.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, everyone.
Y'all have a great afternoon. Good luck with your child's school year. And anytime you need help, reach out to Texas Hands and Voices, reach out to the Statewide Outreach Center. You'll end up talking to me probably anyway. So thank you all and keep up the great work with your kids. Stay strong.
Thank you.